Is being successful in business down to luck? Is it a sweet science? Is it about being in the right business at the right time? Or hard work and dedication? Well, if you're like me, a business owner that's always looking at improving and learning from the best, this podcast will be sharing real stories from real business journeys. Welcome to RealTalk, your podcast dedicated to interviewing successful entrepreneurs. So first and foremost, welcome to RealTalk. There's lots of podcasts out there about business. We do things a little bit differently. So this is more about your journey, what brought you up to today. So there's nothing off the table. You can talk about whatever you want. I'll try and steer the conversation to get what I want, but I want you to just be free and say whatever it is that you want to say, all right? So first and foremost, for people that don't know who you are, introduce yourself, who you are, and what business you represent.
Right. So my name is Melissa Chambers, and I'm a career engineer, entrepreneur, and our current company is Sitehop. So Sitehop is, we did Sitehop because it's site-to-site security. So we're in cybersecurity, which is uber hot right now. And most security products are software-based. And security companies, they approach security from how fast can we catch the breach? Versus our product doesn't let it happen in the first place.
So it stops it.
Yeah. So it's
I'd say that lots of people in that game will actually want the breach though, won't they? So they can get paid to fix it, if that makes sense. Yeah. So you're in essence just stopping it from happening. Yeah. All right. So lots of people are going to be listening to this. Lots of people are going to be watching this. And the first thing that they're going to think is, that's not a Sheffield accent. I'm known for speaking with people in Sheffield. So tell us a little bit about where your accent come from.
Right. So obviously I'm American.
No way, really?
Yeah.
I wouldn't have guessed.
Well, some people say, "Oh, are you Canadian?" I'm like, "Yeah."
Yeah. Just say yeah. Yeah.
So, well, and with the whole Trump thing, I'm married to a Brit, and we met in the States, and I've worked a lot with British companies, and I think I'm more European at heart. But in 2018, we kind of had a big life event that we said, you know what, we've been talking about it, let's just do it.
Yeah.
You know, this thing happened and like, okay, I think, the universe has just said, get on with it. So we moved to England. We moved to the South, mainly for volleyball. So our youngest daughter is a volleyball player.
Love that.
So there's two places to go. You go to Essex or you go to Loughborough, right, to play volleyball. Although
Loughborough's renowned for its sports university. So.
Yeah. So, well, unfortunately not volleyball.
Okay. So you went to Essex
So
then,
we went to Essex. And then 6 months after that, she got picked up by Loughborough. So she moved to Loughborough. Anyway, long story short, when COVID hit, the business that we brought from the States over to the UK folded. We were manufacturing in China. Our customers were in America.
Fun.
It was just a domino effect. Yeah. It killed us. So we went out and looked for jobs, and I got a job for a company that was just starting in Sheffield. So they got funding to try to bring tech jobs here. So I took that. I was the first employee other than the admin.
Love it.
And I got to build the team, and that was great. And then we met. I keep saying we. So my husband and I work together. So if I keep saying that, that's why.
We're guessing that's David then.
That's David. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we met Ben and decided, wow, we all work really well together. We've got the same kind of philosophy of how we want to run the business and build the team. And Ben developed something during the first lockdown. And we were like, oh, that's a really cool idea, right?
There's so many people, right? So look, lockdown was a nightmare, just full-scale nightmare. But you look back at it and there's been so many entrepreneurial seizures, I'd class it as at that point in time, where people finally had the time to write the book or to come up with the inspirational idea or reset and rethink about what is it that I'm trying to achieve here? Am I in the right job? So many businesses started out the back of it because I think everybody went through, not everybody, but lots of people went through that. Am I really getting what I want to get from what I'm doing, or is now the time to go and do something? So Ben, who's your business partner,
Yep.
invented
So
Sitehop, I'm assuming.
Yeah. So he developed the prototype.
Yeah.
So it's a FPGA VPN. So it's an enterprise VPN. So most people, when you think of VPN, is hiding your IP and letting you access things from other countries. But an enterprise VPN is much bigger and accomplishes many other things. And they're all software based. So Ben's background is in FPGA, which is versus CPU, and I won't get into really technical, but he sat down in a cabin with his partner and spent 6 months just headphones on, coding. So he's coding firmware, not software, and he got it to work, and the throughput, and it's amazing. So yeah, it's really. But then he said, I'm a tech guy. I don't know how to take this to market. So luckily, he joined the past company where we all met, and
So what took you from the past company to this company? What did that bridge look like? That you all just came out one day and went, "We've got this idea. We've got to do something with it." Or
yeah, that's. Well, I want to be careful not to disparage the.
Yeah.
So we were a good team. We brought in people from different areas, and we were a good functioning team. But the management was a little bit disjointed, and not everybody was pulling in.
Let me ask you a better question.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you a better question, which is starting a business, especially a startup, which we've spoke on the phone, right? And this is the reason why you're here, because we spoke on the phone, and you spoke for 20 minutes.
Oh my God.
And I was just like, I've got to get Melissa in. I've got to talk to her, because that was such a cool story.
Right. Okay.
But going from a place of security, employment is secure, isn't it? You know how much is coming in, especially when you're married, you got kids. There's a level of security. Like I've got this coming in.
So why would you leave that into
what was the
why
moment?
would you jump off the cliff?
Yeah, why would you jump off the
unknown?
cliff? Yeah, why would you do that?
Right. It's for me, it's the passion of wanting to move fast and grow quickly and build the team and have the environment, and everybody wants to come to work and work hard and play and have fun too. But and I just didn't feel like I was getting that.
Right. So there was an itch that wasn't being scratched.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I felt like I was being throttled.
Yeah.
Right. And it was. I mean, we're entrepreneurs anyway, so we have an idea, we start a company, we grow it. They've all done really well, grown really fast. So high tech manufacturing companies. So it's like, we've been there, done that, know how to do it. It's a very exciting ride. And then they get sold or acquired or absorbed into something else. And then we do the next one, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think we caught this idea from Ben and said, oh, now's the time. Like, we've got to jump on this. This is really good.
I would say that the first steps into starting your own business, especially when I know you've been entrepreneurial for a long time. It's not like you've been in employment for a long time, then this is your first business. But when you decide to take the leap into business ownership, you go, and this is a joke, this is a crass joke for people that are watching, this is just a joke. You go from working from an idiot to starting to work for a lunatic. And it's that, because we're all crazy. I always think entrepreneurs, to some degree, are actually a bit crazy, because it makes no sense, does it? You go from a cushy number, I know what I'm doing, I get up at 7, I get to work at 9, I clock out, sometimes physically, and on the 15th of each month I get paid, to entrepreneurial, like when you start a business, where you choose your own hours. That could be, right, that's it, it's 5 o'clock, I'm up, I'm working. And it could be, I'm working till 12. And the 15th of the month sometimes comes and goes, and there's no money in the bank to actually pay yourself. So it's scary. It's crazy. It's crazy. So when did you get your first taste into an entrepreneurial life? Where did that first taste come from? Right.
So I met David right out of university. I joined his company, which actually was a British company. Then he'd grown in the States. So we worked together for many years and worked together really well. And then when we said, hey, I like you.
Is that how it happened? Who said that? Who said, hey?
Well, there was flirting, obviously,
Okay.
for a period of time, but no, we just always the weirdest thing, having lunch, and it was like,
Yeah.
so in case you haven't noticed,
I tried to make you aware. But,
yeah.
You know.
So we had what we refer to as the talk.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, well, so we're
Did you find that hard to start off with?
a little scary,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, but any new relationship is.
There's a difference between. I work with my wife, so there's a difference between working with somebody for 8 hours a day or living with somebody for 8 hours a day to living and working with each other for 20. For those of you that don't realize, you sleep for 8 hours, so you know that 24. But it's now 24/7.
Yeah.
You know, you're in each other's space constantly. Did you find that a difficult bridge, or did you find that it just worked really fluidly?
It was really fluid for us, and I think we were lucky because we'd worked together and were friends for 4 years first. So we already kind of knew each other's personalities and what we each brought to the work table, right? So and that even now people say, how can you work with your husband? That's like, you never get a break.
Yeah.
But we've always thrown ourselves into work. So our work colleagues become our family anyway.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's not just the job, it's make sure everybody's okay personally as well.
It kind of sounds like there was a value alignment as well as a physical alignment as well, which is so important, isn't it? You've got the same values, you speak the same language.
Well, and he's the like when you said he's the crazy one, right? So he's always been the one to push and challenge the team and come up with these crazy ideas, and the rest of us who make them happen, like, you're crazy, that's never going to happen. And then of course we make it happen, right? So he's always been, so we always say he's the thinker and I'm the doer, right? So he's really good up high and kind of positioning and looking at the future, and so he
doesn't really concentrate too much on making it work.
No,
it's
he's
just,
not
I trust you guys to
guy.
make it. You just make it work. You just make it work.
He's not the detail guy. I say, don't ever give him an original document. Like,
He'll
forget
break
it.
He'll break that.
Yeah. So so we had a good partnership in that, we work really well together.
Yeah.
And we're both really strong.
You worked for a different company together. Was that David's company that you worked in, or?
So he was one of the founders, but he didn't own it. It was it had gone public before I joined.
Yeah.
So he was a major shareholder in the company. And then of course when we got together, we're like, this may not go over very well, so let's move on. But so the reason I mentioned that is because you asked what was the first spark.
Yeah. What was
right.
The
so
first
that
moment?
was safe. Right. So I had a nice salary. I mean, went from a junior.
But David,
engineer.
not so much. He was like, whatever.
He was already like,
he'd already got the bug.
Like got, sold his shares and was really comfortable. So we left the company. So we're like, we're just going to leave. We're not going to deal with any of the fallout if there is any of us getting together. And we got bored real fast. Right? So we're like, what are we going to do? So we actually started a video production company because we're both engineers. Our jobs have always been in engineering, mostly telecom. But David's a musician and I'm an artist. So we're like, let's do something more creative. So we did that. We had the production company for many years and did some television pilots and commercials and things like that. So, and also had children through, and we're like, oh, we need to do something that makes more money because they're all going to want to go to college at some point. So we started a company in 2018, right at the beginning of the recession. What a great time to start a tech company, huh? Insane.
So 2008, this is 2008.
2008. Yes, that's right.
I thought I'd missed one for a second. I thought I'd missed a recession for a second. I thought I'd blinked and it had gone.
2008. So we were in Florida at this point. And, we said, we've got all these kids now. We should probably look at, trying to save up some more money. So we started a tech company. We got our first order from Motorola. And usually what happens is you take that order to the bank and say, hey, I've got this order from this reputable company. They loan you money, you buy the material, you make the product, and then you pay the bank back. Because of the recession, the bank says, great, good for you. So we ended up putting all of our own money into the company, growing it. We grew really fast. We had to take on investors. We either had to walk away from the millions we'd already put in or take on investors. So because the growth was so rapid. So we took on investors, and this was the huge, big whopper of a lesson. So the way they structured the deal, we were basically ratcheted out.
Yeah.
And we lost it all. Like, we lost all of it. They squeezed us out.
Hear that so many times.
Oh, so painful. And it's interesting because we're actually talking to investors now with our new company. And it's like,
been there.
Yeah, I'm not sure I want to do it this way. So, but at least we have that experience. Yeah.
Experience.
And so Ben hasn't had that experience. Luckily, we found an investor that I think will probably be closing the deal with him this week or next week. And it's funny because Ben's like, oh, is this good or is this bad? Because, he's not been through this before, right? Yeah. So it's like, look, he's not from the industry, but he's he feels trustworthy. Yeah. Right. Yeah, I don't know how much business stuff to go into.
No, it's fine. So the video production company was in the States?
Yeah, in Florida.
So when you came over here, so we've got video production company, set up a tech business.
Then a tech business.
Had kids, you're in Loughborough. So where's that middle bit?
So then the tech business, which we got squeezed out of. Yeah. So that was about 2012, 2013. So we were on non-compete. So we were being paid to not work. Yeah. So we were like, oh, well, I mean, we drank for a few months pretty heavily because, it was our baby. Yeah. It hurts to get squeezed out of something that you've built and nurtured. And so that hurts. So after a couple of months of lots of alcohol, we said, you know what? This is not who we are. We need to do something. So we're like, we're getting paid to not work. So we sold all of our furniture. We sold all of our stuff. We've got a little storage unit for our knickknacks and family heirlooms. And we packed up the kids and we did a loop around the United States. So we traveled for a year with our two youngest kids.
Bought a Winnebago and then
we just had a minivan.
Love it.
Minivan. And we drove around the States because initially we were going to go straight to Europe. Mm-hmm. And we're like, but the kids haven't even seen, so we made sure they saw the Redwood Forest and Las Vegas. Yeah. And so we did that. And then we traveled around Europe and that was a lot of fun. And we just jumped from Airbnb to like, oh, where's a really good deal? And
we'll go there.
And we went there. So
Love that.
It was pretty fluid. And then the plan was to do that, because we were still on non-competes, is to do the second year traveling in Asia. Lot cheaper and someplace that we wanted to see. But in April 2014, our youngest son was diagnosed with cancer.
Oh, God.
While we were in Canada. So that ended that. So we were basically homeless, jobless, in a foreign country. Basically, I was living in the hospital with our son. So we were there for about a month in the hospital, and we just reached out we were in groups of other traveling families. And so there were people who said, oh, I've got a relative here and there. And so we found a place to stay, moved back to Maryland, to the States, because obviously we needed to have a base. So we picked Johns Hopkins and, because it's a really good hospital, but also because David and I met in Maryland, and he'd done business other than Filtronic, which was the company where we met. And that family, the Bernsteins, knew what we were going through and that we were a little bit desperate because, insurance in the States is insane. You need to have a job right?
To get healthcare insurance.
Yeah, to get healthcare. So they said, you know what, Dave, you helped our company grow and make a lot of money back in the 80s. We'll hire you. Why don't you start another one? Let's see how it goes. So that started the next company, which we grew and built. We got an order with Verizon, and that went really well. They had another company, though, that was doing well. So actually, it really took off. So they said, you know what, we want to put all of our effort there. So let's wrap up this company. So like, we're really grateful to them. You know, we made a little bit of money at that company, but mainly they did it because David had done something really good for them in the past. And then our house burned down, and we said, that's it. So Edward finished cancer treatment. So that was 4 years. 6 months later, our house burned down. And then we said, you know what? The universe is saying, you need to change. You need to do something different. Yeah. So that's when we packed up and moved to England.
Where do you think your resilience comes from? You come across as a really resilient character, which is lots of people at that point in time, when you got that diagnosis, would have just crumbled. But you seem so resilient. You have this ability, you had the financial crash with you got sort of pushed out of your other business. You decided to go traveling, and then you get hit by another one. Then your house burns down. This is when we were obviously speaking on the phone. I was like, I've just got to get you in to talk about this.
Yeah.
Where did your resilience come from? Was that something from your upbringing? Was that just something that's in your DNA? What is it?
So I don't actually know. My upbringing. So I have siblings, but my dad was always really hard on me and kind of always told me I wasn't good enough. So at an early age, I was like, oh yeah,
I'll show you.
I'll show you. Yes, I can do that. Yeah. So there's a little bit of that. But then, when people, I don't want people to become uncomfortable when you talk about a kid with cancer. People are like, oh God, how do I react to that? Yeah. I'm like, well, if you're a parent, you know that when the baby's crying in the middle of the night and you're sleep deprived, it doesn't matter.
You get up.
You just have to get up, right? So it's just one of those, I just have to get up, right? And so to me, it's that same kind of mentality.
Such a great philosophy. I think that's more than mentality, personally. I think it's just a philosophy that kind of drives you.
Yeah.
What happened with Edward?
Oh, he's super healthy.
Okay, because that's what's going through everybody's mind.
I'm so sorry.
Right
I really should say.
Because everybody's kind of going, okay, we need to know the end of that.
Oh, God. No, part. So Edward is 14 years old now. So he was diagnosed at 6.
Yeah.
Was in treatment for 4 years. At 5 years, so this year, I think, is when he's considered cured.
All clear.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah, thank God. And so he plays rugby.
Great.
I mean, he's taller than me now, and he's a rugby player. I mean, Who knew? Last year was the first time he played, and we went to see. And my husband and I, he'll probably kill me for saying this, but both of us, we
all know. We
shed a tear because we never thought he would do that. I mean, when he was 7, we tried to, when he was healthy enough, let him go back to school a little bit, but he had to wear like a protective shield on his chest because he had a port in his chest for his chemo and stuff. Yeah. So, I mean, we went from him having to put a shield on to go to the playground to playing rugby.
It's incredible, isn't it?
Just
anybody listening that has kids will just such great news. It's just such great news. And what a great end to the story from that side of things. So great story up until today. We're now venturing into something new. We've launched something out of the pandemic, which is just so good to hear. What's next with Sitehop then? What are you aiming to achieve with this business?
Right. So David, Ben, and myself, we're engineers, and we refer to ourselves as first principle engineers. So some people are okay, and there's a place for building on what somebody else has done. And there's always a bit of, you shouldn't reinvent the wheel.
Yep.
But then there's also a bit of is this the right way to do it? Is this the best way to do it? So we always, and one of the reasons our products are so successful in the market is because we do this going back to first principles. And yes, applying the new technologies that we've learned along the way, but going back to the very beginning and having the best product in the industry. So that drives us. So we're really excited about, so this is a new technology now. Cybersecurity is a huge market. Everybody's connected now. I mean, that's another thing that came out of the pandemic. People working from home.
Yeah.
Now everybody's in the cloud. I mean, it's just, before it was like, do you store in the cloud? Nobody asks that anymore. It's just like the internet is now, so is storing things in the cloud. So it's clear that cybersecurity is here to stay. So we're really excited because it's a hardware-based solution, which has its own challenges because of the whole semiconductor. What's the word? Semiconductors are hard to find now, right? The demand is basically, the U.S. said to China, we're going to put tariffs on you. And then everybody said, oh no, we're not going to get parts. And then they swamped.
Everybody's finding it difficult. Everybody's finding that difficult.
Yeah. So if there was, that's actually our biggest concern, is locking up the supply chain, which we're on top of and feel very confident about. So that's good. But so we want to really get this product released. If we can get it into a data center, like Microsoft Azure, or into a cybersecurity, like, get it into a Cisco portfolio, that would be amazing. We're actually talking to all these companies.
Right.
Yeah, which is really exciting. Very exciting. And we're getting great feedback. I mean, industry professionals have given us endorsements and said, wow, oh, I get it. I see what you're doing. Oh, it could be here and here and here. And actually our market is too big.
Yeah.
So it's
trying to narrow down,
actually
focus on one vertical.
And instead of like, oh, who are we going to sell this to? It's like, oh, who are we going to pick first? Like, so because we need,
which is sometimes as hard as to nobody's buying my product. Let me go and find somebody. Actually going, okay, so 1 million companies could buy this. Which ones do we actually target first? Who can get the most benefit from it early on? Okay, so put yourself 5 years in the future. Where do you see this company? What's the journey look like? What would you like to see it?
Right. So, well, we'd like to see, and I think we'll see that the solution that we have will be the standard, right? Everybody who's going to be connecting to the internet and need to secure their data is going to have this product. I mean, so obviously we're starting with businesses, but we've even have on our roadmap a little USB that you'd have at home.
Wow.
I mean, you need to protect IoT is one of our markets. Yeah. So, you've got connected devices all in your own home. So somebody could hack your refrigerator, right? Yeah. And get into your network that way. So, I mean, you have to secure everything.
And this is just becoming more and more and more prevalent not even as the weeks go by, but as the day goes by. Cybersecurity and safety of your own information data that's where all the scams are now, aren't they? It's no longer somebody at the fairground saying, try this ride. It's people stealing your information and using it against you. And
absolutely. Yeah.
So important.
Yeah. So it's definitely, so we'd like to see that as the standard.
Yeah.
And then, our next steps are, next year, 2023, probably mid to late 2023, we'll be incorporating AI, so artificial intelligence, into it, and including a firewall.
Is that for it to learn and evolve?
Absolutely. So you probably don't want me to get very technical, but the reason the data is secure is because it never goes into software.
Right. Okay.
There's some of the control that's in software, but the data itself never goes up into the software layer. It always stays in hardware, which is special. Like that doesn't happen. Militaries and governments have this technology. We're bringing it to the public.
Yeah.
So the next layer, cybersecurity, there's always going to be layered systems. So firewall, if you had our product and a firewall, you wouldn't need much else. So we want to incorporate the firewall into the hardware with artificial intelligence, because that helps kind of debug threats. And so that's the vision. Taking them, there's so many markets. So for example, the FPGA, it's secure, but it's also really fast. So latency is a huge thing, which is telecom. So 5G, right? One of the pillars of 5G is low latency. For example, driverless cars. How's that going to happen? That's only going to happen if you've got a mesh network that the car can always talk to find out where it should go and where it shouldn't go. So latency it needs to be fast, right? I mean, it needs to react very fast. And right now, 5G is having a hard time meeting the security and latency.
Wow.
Right? So
because it focuses on one or the other,
they're deploying, well, sometimes they just won't secure it because they need to meet the latency. So the technology isn't there. It hasn't been introduced to them. So that's actually another market for us. So it's not, so we won't necessarily do a VPN, but we can do an accelerator that's secure for 5G. And it just takes
so many opportunities.
Yes,
so many opportunities.
Yeah.
Look, Melissa, you got a great story. There's so much that so many people can glean from that. There's just two more questions that I want to ask you. Knowing what you know now, what would you have done differently? Out of not just this one, but all of the businesses that you've been involved with, having the experience behind you now that you've got the resilience, maybe a more steely resolve and a more skeptical look out on certain things, what would you have done differently?
So being an entrepreneur and being able to jump in is one thing. I would probably say hold your horses and plan just a little bit more. I think you can plan too much because if you never actually take the step. But I think sometimes I get so excited about the potential and I can solve that problem that I maybe don't always plan it. And I'm trying really hard to do that with Sitehop. We got really with Prism, we got really excited that we had an investor like, great, sign them up, let's keep going. Whereas I should have had multiple paths going, I think it's crucial to give yourself options. You don't want to get backed into a corner. When you're trying to make payroll and you're trying to take care of your staff, you sometimes feel like you're backed into a corner. So take on this time we've got advisors, right? So it's one thing to think, I'm smart, I've done this before, I can do it again. It's nice to have a team around you, advisors, to say, I'm looking at it from this point of view. Have you thought about this?
Have you considered?
Yeah.
Have you considered?
Just, I think it's okay to have a team around you, even if you're the one in charge.
I ask that question to everybody, and I only ever get two answers, which is slow down or speed up, which I find really interesting. Which is some people will go, plan it out. Where are you going? What are the steps? Just be really clear on the journey that you're taking. Other people just do it quicker. I find that really interesting.
I think I'm actually doing both, though.
Yeah.
I mean, we officially started in January. We're going to be ISO certified in April.
Wow.
Right? Because I know in manufacturing, I need all my processes lined up. So there's a little bit of I've been there.
Yeah.
So some things I'm like, we're just doing it.
Yeah.
Right? If I'm going to actually
and that's experience, isn't it?
That's experience. Yeah. These things
which
are important.
Goes to what we were talking about before, which was off camera, which is the idea of the difference between success and failure. And really, is failure even a thing? Is it just things that you're learning over time? And your brain's got this incredible memory center where you can go back and go, I know what I'm doing here. I can see everything. So instead of it taking a week, it takes 5 minutes. And
exactly,
you can only get that through making mistakes, through failing here and succeeding there.
Yeah. Well, the going faster, I would say, is jumping on that first investor or jumping on the first supplier, which isn't always the best. So that's kind of the planning more, don't always jump on the first thing.
But the speed in regards to let's get 5 of those options. Let's get 5 of those options and move.
We're definitely moving fast.
Yeah,
I think we're definitely moving fast.
And final question.
Okay.
What would you say over your entrepreneurial journey has been the biggest lesson that you've learned? The thing that's impacted you the most, that's maybe at the core of that's now at the core of your decision making, or the front and center when you're thinking about making decisions and moving forward with the business? What do you think has been the biggest lesson that you've received in your entrepreneurial journey so far?
I don't know if it's a lesson, but it's one thing that's definitely my resolve to, if you're going to build a successful team, to be true and honest and let people excel in their areas. Just because, we're the founders we don't have all the answers, right? So you're going to be more successful if you empower your team, right? And I think that's David, Ben, and we all feel very passionate about that, because you need everybody on the team for the business to be successful, right? So it's that atmosphere of openness and knowing you can rely on the other person. Yeah,
I always say that the definition of I'm going to finish with two things. The definition of a true business is finding people that are better than you and then setting them free, letting them go. So many people will be on the lookout for a great person and stifle them. You've been there. I could sense that with your eyes. Yeah. You've been there.
Well, that's how I felt at my last job.
I'm like, just let them go.
Let me fly. Let me fly.
And I think it's really, really interesting that you've referred to team more than business today. You're probably not aware of that. But whenever you spoke about the previous businesses that you've ran, owned, been a shareholder of, you always started with people and team. And that's the true definition of a great business. As the owner, the job is literally, let's find really good people, create some systems and processes that might speed them up, that might make dotting the I's and crossing the T's a little bit quicker, but just let them go.
Yeah.
Manage and lead from a distance. I'm a big believer in just, if people have got skills and strengths, let them go with it.
Absolutely.
I can direct from time to time and say, hey, you may be heading in the wrong direction. Maybe look over that way. It might be a better route for you. But I don't know whether you're aware that you said the word team, people more than you did business, which I think says a lot about you.
It's the most valuable thing. I mean, if you let one bad person keep going in the business, it's just like a poison.
Absolutely. And the same with if you stifle a good person, that's also a poison as well.
Yes. Well, yeah. So it's all about the team.
So I would just like to say, on behalf of everybody at RealTalk, thanks ever so much for coming in and spending some time talking to us. I cannot wait to see from a distance what you're doing and what the journey looks like next.
Cool.
So thanks ever so much.
Yeah, thanks.